You can't ignore the past.
Yes.
And you don't want to live in the past. It's using the past as fuel to create a better future. Your opinion really matters when we get to your story. When we're talking big picture yet, I don't want your opinion yet. I want the data. People focus on the how without understanding the why. And if people can't connect to the why, the how doesn't matter.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, good, thanks.
So Rosette is competing in the Miss World America pageant coming up. She's representing Illinois. And part of what they have to do is what's called Beauty with a Purpose. So everybody's got a passion, a cause, something that they're interested in, and they have to present it. And so I was one of the trainers for Miss World America, and I said, hey, let me coach some of them live. So Rosette's joining us here today. So how can I help? Like, what are you going through trying to figure out your Beauty with a Purpose messaging?
I would say that we are already done with submissions.
Okay.
And the thing that I've been constantly battling with in my head is how can I talk about my platform for 30 seconds? Because they say that the next round you just have 30 seconds head-to-head challenge. And I'm like, oh, there's a lot we're doing. How can I put everything down into 30 seconds?
Okay, well, let's practice. 30 seconds. What do you got?
Oh, okay. I would say that my Beauty with a Purpose platform is very important because communities need to know that they have the power and they have the voice to be able to change the circumstances in which they find themselves in. And whether it is as a doctor or any other career it is, we need that person to be able to live out that purpose. I think that's something that I really love about community organizing is that you're able to draw everybody in. Everybody has a part to play. I haven't really known how to kind of put everything up in words because it has to do with my own experiences in the past and how I've been able to also come into play in my community.
Okay, so let's workshop it a bit. What is your cause? What is Beauty with a Purpose for you?
So my Beauty with a Purpose is called Elpida. Elpida in Greek means hope when you translate it into English. And I chose hope because I realized that so many people feel so hopeless when they feel inadequate in any capacity. But also from my past experiences that hope can get you through the littlest, the smallest of rays of hope can get you through the darkest of tunnels. And so I've been trying to spread a hope and trying to help people in my community by BEAT, which is build, educate, empower, train, and heal. So I've been working with a nonprofit organization called CSPL, and we've done so many wonderful things. But my point of focus is on education, immigration, and mental health.
Great. I like it. What was the acronym? BEAT?
BEAT.
BEETH?
Yes.
Got it. So at the start, what I need to hear is how big a deal this is. So hope is, I'm with you. I agree. Super valuable. Where do we see it play out? Like if you're going to say how many people suffer from mental illnesses or how many people suffer from depression or how many people, like, give me we need some stats at the top. Okay. Did you put any stats in your presentation?
Yes, I did.
What's the most impressive one?
I would say that, growing up, I grew up as an immigrant in South Africa, and my past experiences were not so great because not everybody understood why you're an immigrant, what you're doing in a foreign country, and being bullied because of that. Put that on top of being, if I should say, curvy and not fitting into the society's status quo of beauty. And so you kind of get eliminated the further you go deep into my life. So all of that led me to hating myself. I hated my origin. I hated the country I was coming from because of that, I was being bullied. And then I hated the country where I was because it was the reason why I was hurt. So all that darkness, all that bitterness, all that anger, in 2015, I attempted to take my own life. And I remember taking down pills and drinking them so quick. I just wanted to get away. I was done with life. I was done with living in such a cold world. And 2 days later, I woke up in a hospital. I remember being so frustrated. I woke up and I was like, damn it, you're still here. Death doesn't want you. But it allowed me to start thinking more on purpose, to start thinking more on what can we do to make the situations we see around ourselves better. It doesn't help to keep running away. We can't keep running away and saying, I'm running away from poverty, I'm running away from violence and all of that. What can we do to make sure that the communities in which we are in has the right resources, have people who are educated, have immigrants who are integrated into the community and play a big part? Because as an immigrant, it's like your life, in a way, you're a slave, if I should say. You work, you give taxes and everything, but your life is limited. You can't do so many things. You can't take out loans. We have DACA students who can't do so many stuff as well. So it's kind of that limitation that keeps coming up. And then you go through mental illnesses and not everybody understands it, especially in an African-American community. You have so many parents who take you to church for deliverance, you know? You start touring different churches because they say, no, you're not sick. There's an evil spirit plaguing you. In my case, we never spoke about it in my family. I mean, I came back from the hospital and that was it. It went silent. Like it never happened.
So how many people, I love your story. You have a lot to dive into. Your first job when you're going head to head is you have to make me care about the cause because everybody's got a great cause. So why your cause instead of puppies or the rainforest or something, right? So this is your job, is to make me feel like, holy cow, this is so important. I have to pay attention to this. And your personal story leads into it well. And it's a lot of anecdotal data. What you need is like an actual statistic. You need to lead with something big. So if you're talking about people hating themselves, or if you're talking about suicide, some numbers. So what's the biggest number? Do you have any? Like, have you done stats?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I would say that there are 47 million immigrants in the United States. There are 38 million Americans living in poverty, and suicide is the 10th leading cause of death. The 10th leading cause of death. And most of that is in the youth, ages from 16 to 20.
Okay. So this is great. So like number of immigrants doesn't really matter yet because how many of them deal with this? Unless you said 92% of immigrants struggle with hating themselves when they come to America, right? Something like more than just a number of immigrants, right? The 10th leading cause of death, it's big, but it's also not, well, what about 1 to 9? Like maybe I should be why don't we focus on those bigger things? So, so making it, so now if you're saying inside of youth, it's the number 1 cause of, or the number 3 cause of death, or numbers like 40 million Americans try to kill themselves every year. I'm just making up a number, but it's
1.4 million.
1.4
million try to kill themselves every year.
Americans.
Yes.
Attempted suicide.
Attempted, yes.
So like, that's a great start. Every year, 1.4 million people in America try to kill themselves. Like that's the first sentence.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of, you know, my beauty with a purpose challenge is important because like right away you hit me with something big. Okay, great. So right after that, what are the leading causes of people wanting to commit suicide?
I would say there are many leading causes. It differs from person to person. But the one that I deal with the most amongst teenagers is definitely self-esteem.
So this is where you need to get specific data, because I like your opinion really matters when we get to your story. When we're talking big picture yet, I don't want your opinion yet. I want the data. So 1.4 million people try to kill themselves every year in America. And then something, if it's around youth, like amongst youth, suicide is one of the top 3, whatever, XYZ. And what leads to attempted suicide, the top 3 causes are boom, 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 right? Self-esteem, being bullied, and something else. And not like what you think, but according to Harvard, the 3 big cause, right? Just to make it sing, wow, 1.4 million people try this every year is a big problem. And here's what leads to it, right? So if it was, if the 3 things that caused it were, you know, self-esteem, bullying, and not fitting in. Let's just play with that. Like if those are, but you should actually go look them up to find out what the reasons are. But let's say those are it. then that's when you can get to your story. Because you dealt with self-esteem and bullying and not fitting in. And you've come out on the other side and you almost killed yourself. And you woke up 2 days later in the hospital and then you found hope. And you want to give hope to America's youth right now as well. That's how you form like a really good story.
Yes.
So you have a great story. It's awesome. People can connect to it. And your personality shines. Like even the first thing, as soon as you came on, I was like, oh my gosh, what an energy. I love the energy, right? And if you're going in on things like not fitting in or bullying for being an immigrant or being, even as being, talk about being bullied for being curvy, and now entering a beauty pageant, being curvy, like this is a great, like I don't look like these other women. I wasn't born here like these other women were, but America has become my home. And I want to spread that hope to America's youth this year, right? It's like making it more, so your story is important, but it has to tie into the bigger picture of what we're trying to accomplish. So I want to stop youth suicide, and we're going to do it by attacking these 3 things, right? Then quicken to your story. And I know it's hard in 30 seconds. I know like this is the challenge.
But the thing we have is it's really nice and just straightforward that you can just easily talk it out and say there are 1.4 people who try to attempt suicide and the leading causes is 1, 2, 3 and then maybe the way forward and why it's important. And then
your story. So like, well, why it's important is already in the numbers. Like 1.4 million youth try to kill themselves every year in America. And the top 3 causes, according to Harvard, are boom, boom, boom. I've realized this myself. I tried to kill myself when I was 18. Or I don't know. How old were you when you tried to kill yourself?
I was 19.
19. Perfect. Yeah. Because I came from South Africa, because I sounded different, because I was curvy and I looked different and I had nowhere that I felt like I belonged in, I tried to take my life too. And I woke up 2 days later in the hospital and realized that I need to have more hope. And I turned my life around. And now I want to spread that same mission of hope to the 1.4 million Americans who want to take their lives every year. Right? Yeah. And like, that's 30 seconds. And that's a great conversation start. Because then they'll ask questions and come back and go back and forth. But you've got such a great story and a great personality and you're different, which is great. So you stand out. But it's got to be wrapped inside that bigger picture thing of what we're trying to accomplish. Like, why this? Because somebody else is going to say, well, 1.5 million puppies die every year in America. I'm like, oh my gosh, 1.5 million puppies? Right?
And then I'm just there like, okay, I don't know any numbers. So definitely I think this is more research and to kind of write it all down and just kind of make sense in my head. I think sometimes you have to be prepared as well.
For
just
sure.
To make sure you know how it sounds.
So if you're practicing your 30-second pitch, we just came up with a structure, and I'll save this. You can watch this back again and go through it a couple of times. But that's you've got almost all of it. You're just missing the numbers and the like. What is the cause at the top? Before you get to the solutions, like the solution is beef, right? Great, but the solution to what? What's the problem that we're solving? Right? People focus on the how without understanding the why, and if people can't connect to the why, the how doesn't matter. So but now you've got the structure. Now what you do is you practice that 30 seconds over, get it, like time it, get it down, time it, do it to your dog, do it in front of your plant, like pretend like it's somebody, not just you talking to the phone. There's somebody, do it to like, I've got my parents on the wall, so I would like do it talking to my parents there. But as if it's somebody. And then once you get the words down, the most important thing that's going to help sell this is your charisma, your care, your passion. You've got such a big heart and like warmth inside you, just naturally, that sometimes what happens is when you're trying to memorize words or when you get nervous, the heart doesn't come out anymore. So then after you get the 30 seconds down of a memorized script, it's now trying to get that out with heart, with energy, with love. And if you say the wrong thing or you don't say it exactly like you, it's okay, because the heart's going to be the thing that will carry the day.
Definitely. That makes so much sense. I've been thinking about it because when I was preparing, I was like, okay, I put everything in and I was like, oh, if I have to say this in 30 seconds, sometimes you feel like you're just doing a lot and there's a lot you want to blurt out to people. So this is very helpful.
I went through the same thing, with my first business. I always felt like I wish I could just have the person that I wanted to talk to just sit on the couch and talk to me for an hour, because if we got it, I'm sure they would understand what I'm trying to do. Unfortunately, that's not how the world usually works, right? And when if you win Miss World America, you're going to be doing interviews, TV shows, radio shows, podcasts, and they don't have all day. They're going to put a microphone in your face. Here you go. Here you go, Rosette, right?
And that's it.
And you got to be able to speak in sound bites. And that's part of what the judges are looking for, is not just having a great cause, it's being able to communicate that cause so that when the spotlight is on you, you're going to represent the brand well, and also hopefully do a lot of good, for the cause that you've got. So yeah, that's definitely a great start. Do you have a picture of you when you were in the hospital or when you're around that age?
I have a picture. I think my dad took one and I never liked it because I look terrible. But I can definitely get a picture of that.
I think thinking about a visual, because this is all done remote now. This year is all remote. It's not going to be in person. Yeah. Paying attention to the visuals that you have. So obviously like what you wear and hair and makeup and all that. And I'm not going to be your hair and makeup coach. I'm sure you know how to do all that better than me anyway. But visuals is going to be important. So it's one thing you telling the story, and there's another thing to actually see it. So to say, this is me when I was 19. And I think it's great that the juxtaposition is great in that here you are, you're going to be looking fabulous. You're trying to win a beauty pageant. So you look great, but then here's this picture of you not looking great.
Yes.
And showing, and you can even say, like, even sharing this is hard for me because I look at this and I hate how I look. And it was just such a painful moment in my life. I hate thinking about that time in my life because I'm so much happier now. But I recognize that there's 1.4 million people this year who are going to do the same thing that I tried to do in this picture. And so it makes the story a lot more real. It takes me into it instead of just talking about it.
Okay. I'll try to dig for some pictures. At that time when I was going through that, my dad tried taking pictures in the hospital. I was like, no. But I'll see if he sneaked one in for me.
But even sharing that as part of the story, to say, when I was 19, I never let my dad take pictures of me because I hated myself. I hated how I looked. I thought I was too fat, or like whatever you would say, because curvy is a much nicer word. You probably wouldn't say, no, I'm so curvy. You're probably coming up with like whatever words were actually in your head. Yeah. Like, what would you tell yourself when you looked in the mirror at 19? What would you actually tell yourself in the mirror?
I never looked in the mirror. I was never the type to look in the mirror. I was never the type to go shopping, just because you always felt like, I have to go to the bigger size, or you'd never find your size. And so you avoid going to such places and going out.
Okay. But what was the voice in your head? What were you telling yourself about yourself?
That you're not deserving, that you can't fit into that world, that you wouldn't be accepted. I was so used to being rejected that it just got into you that I'm always rejected. And so I always lived a life of hiding. What I wore, you would see that I'm hiding. It was always baggy and everything. It was just a life of hiding. Yeah.
Yeah. So sharing that. And I didn't let my father take any pictures of me. And so this was actually hard to find. I was trying to find a picture of me, and we had to go through a lot of archives because I hid from everybody. I hid from him. I hid from myself. I hid from the world. I hid from my friends. I was just constantly hiding. And that led me to wanting to take my own life. Right. And so like having that visual would be very moving.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And
leading up to this was so exciting too.
What another great thing to practice that I want you to lean into is try to lean. This is going to be hard because you've grown a lot. You've come a lot. You radiate so much positivity now. Like, I'm sure you're the one who's always giving love and hope and energy and like feeding people love, right? Like, it's just so, I feel your heart, you know, even though you're in America, I'm here in Canada, you know, I feel your heart through the magic of the internet. What you want to be able to do is tap into the negative side when you're talking about that part of your story. So you're obviously going to, you know, you look beautiful, you have a beautiful story, you've got so much energy, but then when you share what happened, to switch the tone from upbeat, energetic, loving to then what actually was going through your head. So a great story goes to these arcs. It's not just always high. You have to take me into the pain and then come back out on a high to whatever you remember about that moment when you thought about, even as you talk about it, like your voice is going to go a little bit slower. You're going to be a little bit more reflective. You're taking me into the pain, right? Yeah. And then as you come through, when you woke up 2 days later and you realize, no, I need to have hope. I need to have something worth fighting for. And I want to make sure that like these 1.4 million Americans don't have to face the same feeling of lack of belong like I did. And now my speech is getting faster again. And now I'm getting more excited because I think about the hope for the future and where we're going, right? But it's not just staying high for the whole time. It's taking me down into the low and then coming back out. Don't leave on the low, but you take me into the low and then coming back out on the high. Especially with a story as painful as yours, like that's the most, you tried to kill yourself. That's the most painful, like it's hard to go more painful than that.
Okay, you usually share your story and, you know, people can easily relate. I think the thing that has been very hard for me, even while preparing all of this, is going back. You know, how do you go back? You feel that pain and everything. And sometimes it can kind of, like, I should say, lead your whole day because you remain there. It takes a certain, I don't know, courage to kind of travel back there and say, okay, this is how you were really feeling. And to feel it, but not let it influence how you go on from experiencing that thing for that little 30 seconds or 1 minute. How do you do it when you tell people your story?
Yeah. So to get into it, one, you look at the picture because that was you, like in the moment. So the more emotional picture you can find, the better. That'll take you back into that moment. And then even if you have to take a deep breath, you know, even if you're like, and just in looking at the picture brings back these memories, right? Like doing that brings me in with you. Because if you're just talking about it, if you just said, I was feeling really bad and then I tried to kill myself. And then, you know, 2 days later I decided, I don't know, I want to help the world. It's like, what? You're not taking me in, right?
Yes, definitely.
So looking at the picture, breathing, trying to remind yourself of what 19-year-old Rosette was kind of going through and then experiencing that. The way out is service. The way out is helping other people. The way out is knowing that 1.4 million people are struggling with this and you want to try to make that number 0. And that's the story that you can tell the judges as well, but it's also for your own, like, this is how you get, the way through isn't to forget that it happened and try to block out the past. The way through is to help other people who are currently struggling with this thing so that people don't actually continue to struggle and suffer because they've met you.
It's like constantly reminding yourself, okay, this happened, but what are you going to do with what happened? Constantly when these emotions come back up.
That there's somebody right now who is 19-year-old Rosette who's about to take a pill, cut themselves, jump from the bridge, like they're about to do something. And just knowing you could change their life and make them have a little bit more hope. That the conversation with you or a video that you do or an interview that they watch could be the difference between them jumping and not jumping. And so it's that, like, this is the mission that you're on. It's that service. Like, I want to help people. So you can't ignore the past. And you don't want to live in the past. It's using the past as fuel to create a better future.
Okay, that makes sense.
You got a huge heart. Now it's just about, you know, wearing that on your sleeve and letting the world and America see how beautiful you are inside and out, and the big mission that you're on. And I'm cheering you on, and I'm excited to see how it goes.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, Rosette.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Much love.
If you want another awesome video in our Black Excellence series, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.